Good morning, class. Good morning, Mrs. Munoz. This is it. This is the end of the line. This is the last day of school, 2020. We're done. We've done months and months of distance learning, and it's all done. Hooray. Now, you're not done reading or drawing or writing. You're not done with any of that stuff, but you're having a break because it's summertime, and I have one final doozy for you. It is called Horrid Henry and the Zoom of Doom. I picked this story because it's really funny. Imagine if we could all together go on a trip to a theme park, like a water park or a roller coaster park. How fun would that be? I'm imagining it, and it's fun. So let's see what happens when Horrid Henry and his class go to the park. I'm worried. Let's find out. Bop, 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 bop. The giant teacups bobbed down the lazy river. Whee! Squealed Perfect Peter. Whee! Squealed Tiny Ted. Whee! Squeaked Perky Parveen. Whee! Squealed all the mini ninnies seated in the giant floating teacups. Terrified screams rang out from a nearby ride. Moody Margaret and Sour Susan and Brainy Brian and Jazzy Jim were whizzing down belly flop drop in a bouncing rubber raft. Sounds a lot more fun than that, right? Which twisted and looped and spun backwards. Duck! Hissed Henry. Don't let him see us! Horrid Henry and Rude Ralph slumped down in their tiny seats as low as they could. If Margaret or any of their classmates saw them riding in the toddler teacups, their names would be mud forever. Sit up, Henry, said Miss Battleaxe. You too, Ralph. Horrid Henry groaned. Oh. How had he, Horrid Henry, ended up trapped in a giant teacup with Miss Battleaxe and his wormy worm brother and the rest of Miss Lovely's infant class at Wild Waterslide Park? He wanted to go racing down the Zoom of Doom, the twisting, looping roller coaster water slide with the world's steepest drop, where cannonballs blasted you as you hurtled backwards through waterfalls, flipped you upside down and spinning as you crashed screaming into Crocodile Creek, or belly flop drop with its jet sprays and stomach churning twists, or crash splash where rubber rings raced toward each other before veering off into tunnels of terror. The shame, the misery, the horror of being trapped in giant teacups instead, with, oh, whoa, only more baby rides to come. It was so unfair. He'd worked his fingers to the bone earning all those badges. Was it his fault he'd disappeared with Rude Ralph on the last class trip? The class had got lost, not them. Or that he jumped from the little white train chugging around the Second World War airfield on the second trip before that? Because he'd seen a plane he needed to investigate? That certainly wasn't his fault. It was the school's for not showing them anything interesting. Gondola ride on the baby bayou next, everyone, smiled Miss Lovely. Yay! Trilled the infants. The gondolas are so exciting, said Goody Goody Gordon. I don't want to ride on the gondola ride, yelled Horrid Henry. I want to go on the Zoom of Doom. That's much too scary, said Perfect Peter. It's a straight drop to the bottom, gasped Tiny Ted. I'm scared of heights, whimpered Perky Parveen. Don't worry, we won't be going anywhere near the Zoom of Doom, said Miss Lovely. I want to go on the Zoom of Doom, howled Horrid Henry. Henry, Ralph, you're staying with me, said Miss Battleaxe, and that's final. There will be no repeat of last year or the year before that. And as I do not like water slides, we will be sticking with Miss Lovely's class. Do you see that fly bothering me? No, howled Horrid Henry. No, howled Rude Ralph. Yes, snapped Miss Battleaxe. She shuddered. She would rather swim with sharks than go on a water slide and be hurled backwards into an abyss. The very thought made her feel faint. Once she was a little girl, She tried a teeny-weeny roller coaster and spent a week recovering from the fright in a darkened room. No water slides for her. Horrid Henry scowled. He had to escape from Miss Battleaxe and get on the Zoom of Doom. He had to! He loved scary rides and big drops and roller coasters more than anything in the whole wide world. The twister, the turnier, and the more terrifying, the better. And oh, the agony. Here he was, finally at Wild Water Slide Park, and he was trapped with the infants. He whispered to Rude Ralph. Ralph smiled. Good plan, he said. Just as their giant teacup reached the dock, Rude Ralph stood up, wobbled, and toppled over the side into the river. He started splashing and shrieking. Man overboard, shouted Horrid Henry. Help! Help! He'd escape in all the commotion and get straight to the Zoom of Doom before anyone could stop him. I'm going to get that fly. Henry leaped off the teacup. A hideous hand grabbed his shoulder. Not so fast, said Miss Battleaxe. Why aren't you rescuing Ralph? Screamed Henry. He's drowning. Help, yelled Ralph, spluttering and flailing. Help! Stand up, Ralph, said Miss Battleaxe, now. Slowly, Rude Ralph stood up in the shallow water, which only reached to his knees. Rats. That's not a very funny joke, is it? Everyone get in line and follow me to the baby bayou, trilled Miss Lovely. Yay, said Perfect Peter. The baby bayou is my favorite ride. Horrid Henry pinched Peter. Ow! Perfect Peter screamed. Henry pinched me, he wailed. I was just checking to see if you were an alien, hissed Henry. And you are. Moody Margaret and Sour Susan strolled past laughing. Oh, wow, that was so much fun, squealed Moody Margaret. Yeah, squealed Sour Susan. Let's go to the Zoom of Doom now, said Margaret loudly. Ooh, I'm going to get him. I'm going to get him on camera, too. Did you enjoy the giant teacups, Henry? I hope you weren't too scared, said Moody Margaret, smirking. Horrid Henry gritted his teeth. What could he say or do, other than hope that a giant sea monster would rise up from the lazy river and swallow Margaret whole? He wishes. Too bad you won't get to ride the Zoom of Doom, Henry, said Margaret. Na, 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 jeered Margaret and Susan, racing off to the long line snaking away from the entrance of the Zoom of Doom. We have got to escape, muttered Horrid Henry. Too right, said Rude Ralph. Henry looked at Ralph. Ralph looked at Henry. Run! Shouted Horrid Henry. Henry and Ralph ran off as fast as they could. They darted through the crowds, pushing and shoving and leaping, closer and closer to the Zoom of Crash bang! And where do you think you're going? Said a terrible voice. Huh? There was Miss Battleaxe, standing in front of him, arms crossed. They slammed right into her. We needed the bathroom, said Henry. It was an emergency, said Rude Ralph. Miss Battleaxe glared at him. If you so much as move an inch from my side again, you will be taken straight to the bad children's room to wait for your parents to collect you, said Miss Battleaxe. Yikes! The bad children's room. If Henry got sent home, he'd have no chance of ever getting on the Zoom of Doom. His parents would never take him back to Wild Water Slide Park. That was for sure. He'd have to grit his teeth and find another way. Horrid Henry and Rude Ralph followed the infants to the gondolas on the baby bayou. Oof, I feel seasick, said Rude Ralph suddenly. Those teacups made me dizzy. I need to go to the first aid room. Blech. He belched loudly, then winked at Henry. Is he faking? Oh, yeah, me too, said Horrid Henry. He clutched his stomach. Ooh. Ow! Ow! You can just leave us to recover there, he moaned. We don't want to stop anyone from having fun. Oh. Miss Battleaxe took Horrid Henry and Rude Ralph, groaning and moaning, to the first aid room. They lay down on 2 cots. Oh, no need to stay with us, groaned Henry. Yeah, we'll just lie here till it's time to go home, moaned Ralph. These boys are suffering from seasickness, said Miss Battleaxe to the nurse. Are they, though? Tummy ache, said the nurse. Yes, moaned Henry. Dizzy? Oh, yes, said Ralph. Feeling like you're going to vomit? Any second, said Henry. Not to worry, said the nurse. I have just the right injection. She advanced toward them, waving two enormous needles. No! You know, I feel a lot better, said Henry, sitting up. Me too, said Ralph. Excellent, said Miss Battleaxe. Now off we go to the dozy dinghies. If we're lucky, we'll catch Miss Lovely at the steamboats for a relaxing journey around the Pixie Pond. How was it possible, thought Henry miserably, trudging after her, to have so many baby rides in a waterslide park? He could see Tough Toby and Fiery Fiona whizzing down Panic Precipice, whooping and laughing, while he was trapped in the Pixie Pond. Last ride before home time, said Miss Lovely. Lullaby Lagoon or the fairy float boats. Lullaby Lagoon might be too scary, said Spotless Sam. How about cannibal canoes, where you get eaten as you ride, snarled Horrid Henry. That's why all the canoes come back empty. Quiet, Henry, said Miss Battleaxe. Soon she'd be safely home with her feet up, and the school outing would be over for another year. I have no idea what that feels like. Fairy floats, fairy floats, fairy floats, fairy floats, chanted the infants. Oh, where are the fairy float boats, said Miss Lovely. Miss Battleaxe consulted her map. Oh, right next to the Zoom of Doom, said Miss Battleaxe, pointing to the huge queues of lines, jostling each other, waiting for both rides. Just to torture him, thought Horrid Henry as he plodded over to the line for the fairy float boats. Could his day have gotten any worse? So near, and yet so far. There were so many people pushing and shoving that the queues were starting to mix together. You couldn't tell which one was which. And then Horrid Henry had a brilliant, spectacular idea. It was perilous. It was dangerous. The chance of success was tiny. And yet, how could he not risk his life for a chance to ride the Zoom of Doom? Come on, everybody, this way, said Henry, weaving through the massive lines. Perfect Peter, Goody Gordon, and Tidy Ted followed him. Slowly, Henry inched his way to the right into the Zoom of Doom line. Follow me, shouted Rude Ralph, ushering Miss Battleaxe, Miss Lovely, and her class to the right behind Henry. Finally, they reached the start of the line. What's this ride again? Asked Perky Parveen. Fairy float boat, said Henry, grabbing a seat at the front of the Black Skull raft. Oh, I love the fairy float boats, said Perfect Peter. Miss Lovely and Miss Battleaxe sat down. Hey, I don't remember seatbelts on the fairy float boats, said Miss Battleaxe, buckling up. Do you, Lydia? No, said Miss Lovely. Must be new health and safety rules. Seatbelts on, everyone! The rubber rafts began a slow ascent up the track. Lydia, said Miss Battleaxe, I don't remember riding in Black Skulls on the fairy float boats, do you? Must be a new design, said Miss Lovely. The rafts climbed higher and higher. Soft music began to play. Boudica, said Miss Lovely, don't we seem rather high up for the fairy float boats? Now that you mention it, said Miss Battleaxe. She peered over the edge. Lydia, I got the feeling we're not... But before she could finish speaking, the raft plunged over the edge, spun backwards, and plummeted straight down. Miss Battleaxe screamed, "Rah!" Miss Lovely screamed, "Yee!" The infant screamed, "Ah!" Whoopee! Shrieked Henry and Ralph. They'd done it. They were riding on the Zoom of Doom at last. Life was sweet.